Aleph in the Bava.
That is correct. I've got Ches Aleph
Okay.
too.
Okay. If one wounds another, he becomes liable for him for five categories: for injury, for pain, for healing, for loss of time, and for disgrace. For injury, how? If he blinded his eye, cut off his hand, or broke his leg, we view him as if he were a slave a slave being sold in the market, and appraise how much he was worth and how much he is worth. Pain, if he burned him with a spit or with a nail, even on his fingernail, a place where it does not make a wound, we appraise how much such a man wishes to take to suffer such pain.
Okay, so just to be clarified, the wording of the Mishnah is not 100% clear there because it sounds like, you know, how much money would you like to would you accept to receive this pain?
Right.
Somebody's going to say like any amount of money. I don't want to have that pain. Thank you very much
Right.
for money. Rather, I think it's the Gemara. Yeah, the Gemara explains that LMI is that somebody was sentenced to this in the non-Jewish courts or something like that. They said, okay, we're gonna burn you, and the guy and they say, and he says, okay, but you know what, we'll take a bribe. How much will you pay to be released from this pain so that we don't have to pay, don't have to burn you? That's a very different question from somebody saying how much should we pay you to accept to have this pain. It's like, how much would you pay to be free of this pain? Very, yeah, a very different question. Anyway.
Healing. If he struck him, he is obligated to heal him. Should blisters arise on him, if it's a result of the wound, he's liable. If not as a result of the wound, he's exempt. If he healed and then relapsed, and healed and relapsed, he is liable to heal him. He is liable to heal him. If he healed completely, he is not liable to heal him. Loss of time, we view him as if he were a watchman of a cucumber field, since he has already given him the value of his hand or the value of his foot. Disgrace, all depends upon the status of the one who is disgraced and the one who was disgraced. If one disgraces a naked person, disgraces a blind person, or disgraces a sleeping person, he is liable. However, if a sleeping person disgraced, he is exempt. If one fell off a roof and injured and disgraced, he is liable for the injury but exempt for the disgrace. If the apostle says, if he stretches forth his hand and takes hold of his private organs, one is not liable for disgrace unless he has intention. This is the stringency of a man over a bull, that a man pays for injury, bull, healing, loss of time, and disgrace, and he pays the value of the young, whereas the owner of a bull pays only for injury and is exempt from the value of the young. If he strikes his father or his mother, but does not inflict a wound upon them, or if one wounds another on Yom Kippur, or he is liable for all of them. If one wounds a Jewish bondman, he is liable for all of them except loss of time when he is his. If one wounds a Gentile slave belonging to others, he's liable for all of them. Rabbi Yehuda says slaves have no indemnity for disgrace.
Well, because the thing is, like, there's no more disgraceful position than being a slave in the first place. So how can you embarrass somebody who's already at the lowest possible level?
Right.
Okay, cheresh shotiv katan, getting involved with the cheresh shotiv katan pagias and ra is a bad idea. It's not going to come up well for you no matter what happens, because if you injure a cheresh shotiv katan, you're going to be chayav to pay them. And but if they injured you, then they're patur, because they don't have. What are you? So my son over here is sitting on the side, and he thinks he's either a cherish or a shoti, because he's not a katan anymore. Yeah, you had your bar mitzvah already. Right. Okay. So cherish shoti katan, they're patur for any damages that they do. Okay. Ha'evid va'isha pagia sanra. So the Evid and an Evid and a woman, who at least a married woman, Pagia Sanra. It's also a bad idea to get into a fight with one of them. Because if you injure them, then you have to pay either to the adon or to the husband. But they injure other people, they're patur because they don't have any of their own property. It all goes through the master or through the husband. Aval mishalmin lachazman nisgar sha'isha nishtachar ha'eved chayav in l'shalem. So that remains hanging over them for the day when either the Eved is released or the woman is divorced or widowed. Okay, because at that point she now has her own property, and now at that point you can sue her for whatever damages she did. Okay. Hamake avi ve'imo. So this is now in contrast to Mishnah Gimel, which you just read a minute ago. It said Hamake avi ve'imo va'asa behen chabura. If he actually wounded his father or mother, why? Because he's chayav benafsho. So once a person is in the category of dina nefasho, then we don't judge him on mahmanos at all. Similarly, if somebody injures his friend on Shabbos, it's a violation of Shabbos. Patu mikulan. He's on the level of people who are being judged for their life. Rambam actually makes an interesting comment on here. That why is it if normally we say that you only chayav on Shabbos for doing meleches machshavos, for doing a productive act, and like hitting somebody and making them bleed is not productive; it's destructive. So why should you be chayav for that? In which case, you should be chayav for the damages. Right. It explains that because when somebody hits somebody in anger and causes a wound, it is therapeutic for him. He feels better about it. He gets the satisfaction of having caused the injury that that other person had coming to them. Right. So because now that is considered meleches machshavos legabe him, and therefore he would be chayav for violation of Shabbos there. Shabbos, right. And if somebody beats up his own Eved Knani, his Eved Knani can sue him, but as soon as he gets the money, it comes back to the Adon because so it doesn't make so there's no point in doing anything because he's passing from one hand to the other. Okay, Mishna Vav, quite a lengthy discussion here about boshes, about embarrassing a person. So now, what's tokea is a few versions of what tokea mean. That he punches him is one option. The Rambam says that he actually is from punching somebody, or the Rashi says that he hits him on the ear, or near his ear, according to Tiferes Yisrael. And whatever the case, it's he did this in public and embarrassed a person for doing it. So what does he have to pay? Noten lo sela. Okay, so for that the price is one sela. Okay, now that seems to be that's going to kind of shrink in comparison with the later things because Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishum Rabbi Yossi Aglili Maneh, he says no, it's 100. He says for that. Okay, so that's quite a big difference.
He also says that Rashi in Bechoros also says that his teacher interprets as a blow on the ear. He explains that it's shouting into the ear, screaming into his ear.
Right. Okay. Staro slapped him. He slapped a person on the face.
Slapped him, right.
Okay. No saying lo masayim zuz. That's 200 zuz worth of damages right there. But if he gave him a backhanded slap, right? That's even more dismissive. You know, whether you hit with the front of the backhand, so now the price goes up. No say no arba meos zuz, 400 zuz for such a thing. Taram beozno, okay. He pulled his ear, talash besaro, or yanked his hair. Rakak v'higier boroko, spat on him, and the spittle reached him. Ke'evir taliso mimeno, or he yanked his talis off him. Para rosha isha b'shuk, or he uncovered the hair of a woman in the shuk. No saying arba me'os zuz. This is all worth 400 zuz because of embarrassing the person. As zehaklal, however, the Mishnah qualifies, but there's a general rule here. Hakol lefi kvodo. All this prices that we've had here is for a person who's mechubad, who's like an upstanding and very dignified member of society. But if you've got a street bum who's like already living in the filth and whatever, and he gets a slap, he's not going to get the same price as say the nasi. Okay. Rabbi Akiva, but Rabbi Akiva disagrees with this Tana who said so. He says Bnei Yisrael are intrinsically royalty. It's like you got to view them as wealthy people who have fallen on hard times. Okay, Shehem Bnei Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. What do you want? These are the children of such illustrious forebears as Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. you got to treat them with equal dignity, no matter how lowly they are. Um, they they get the full damages. Okay, and there was a Master Shahaya. So a man embarrassed a woman in public. He yanked off her headscarf in the shuk, and she sued him in front of Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva is based in says, okay, 400 zuz for that, for what you did. He said, okay, Amarlo, Rebbe, 10 these man. He said, give me some time to get the money together. The Nasan was man. He said, okay, fine, you get 30 days, let's say. I don't know how much he gave. Let's say he said 30 days. Okay. Shimra Omeris al Pesach Chatzer. So now he decides he's going to spring a trap and show that this woman doesn't really deserve the 400 zuz. So he sprang a trap for her as when she was in a chatzer, which is like facing the Rishus Harabim, and Vishavar es hakad b'fanea, and he had some stooges. I don't think he would have done this himself, but he had some stooges there who broke an oil jug in front of her, and she and there was just a little bit of oil in it, and she said, "Oh, oil, wonderful." Gil says Rasha, so she uncovered her hair right there in her chatzer. So she was gathering up the oil that fell and quickly and before it falls into the ground and putting it into her hair. And he sprung the witnesses and said, see, this is what happened with this woman. She doesn't care about her own dignity, right? She uncovers her own hair. Like, so why are you charging me for uncovering her hair? She doesn't care bichlal. Rabbi Akiva. So he comes triumphantly with his witnesses to say, see, Amarlo, Rebbe, really, I'm supposed to pay 400 zuz to this woman who's got so little self-respect? Amarlo, lo martaklum, inadmissible. This makes absolutely no difference. Why? Here's an example, says Rabbi Akiva. If somebody injures himself, patur, he doesn't have to pay anything for it. Okay, you're not allowed to wound yourself, but if you did, you're not going to pay anything. But if somebody comes afterwards and wounds him and adds to his wound, then they have to pay. If somebody goes around his field chopping down his own trees, even though it's baltashchis, patur, what you going to charge him? You can't make him pay. Somebody else said, "Oh, we're having a chopping down party." He comes and joins in. He said, "Hey, what you doing? You're chopping down my trees," and takes him to Beis Din. Chayav. Okay, so the same thing goes for this woman. If she uncovers her own hair, that's her business. You uncover her hair, she can sue you. Yeah. Okay, so the halacha actually does not follow Rabbi Akiva in general. I mean, in terms of this particular case, he makes a good point that you can't just judge by the fact that somebody uncovers their own hair that they would be patur, but nonetheless, the point is that Rabbi Akiva says it doesn't matter, whether he's a bum on the street or he's the prince of Israel, he gets the same damages. But the halacha doesn't follow him on that. It is according to Hamavayish v'Hamispayish.
When we started this, I was thinking, where did I see this before? Then we got on to the next one, and
you remember the story?
I remember the whole story.
Yeah. Okay.
Chazara,
Dalad Tes.
If you gave it over to an unpaid guardian, to a borrower, to a paid guardian, or to a renter, the latter is responsible in lieu of the owner. For a muad, he pays the full damages, and for a tam, he pays half the damages. If his owner tied it with a rein and locked the store before it properly, and it went out and damaged, whether it is a tam or muad, he's liable. Those are the words of Rav Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says the owner of a tam is liable, and the owner of a muad is exempt. Pasuk says if his owner does not watch it, and this one is watched. And Rav Eliezer says no guarding is sufficient except the knife. If a bull gores a cow and his fetus is found at its side and it is not known whether it gave birth before it was gored or whether it gave birth after it was gored, the owner of the bull pays for half the damage done to the cow and 1/4 of the damage done to the young. Likewise, if a cow gores a bull and its young is found at its side, it is not known whether it gored it before it gave birth or whether it gored it after it gave birth. And the owner of the cow pays half the damages from the cow or 1/4 of the damages for the young. If a potter brings his pots into another's yard without permission and the other person's animal breaks them, he's exempt. If he is injured by them, the owner of the pots is liable. If he brings them in with permission, the owner of the yard is liable. If one brings his produce into another's yard without permission and the other person's animal eats them, he's exempt. If it is injured by them, the owner of the produce is liable. And if he brings them with permission, the owner of the yard is liable.
Okay. Get in. Zion.
If one married his Yavama and her co-wife went and was married to another, it was discovered this man is an aloneness, she must leave both of them, and all these procedures apply to her. If a scribe wrote a get for a man and a receipt for a woman, and he erred and gave the get to the woman and the receipt to the man, and they gave them one to another, and afterwards the get was found in the hands of the man and the receipt in the hands of the woman, she must leave both of them. All these procedures apply to her. But Eliezer says if he went out immediately, it is not a get. If it went out afterwards, it is a get, because the first is not believed to abrogate the rights of the second. If a man wrote a get to divorce his wife and then changed his mind, Beit Shammai says he disqualified her from marrying a Kohen. Beit Hillel said, however, that even if he gave it to her on a condition, and the condition was not met, this is not disqualified from marrying a Kohen. One who divorced his wife and then she lodged with him in an inn, Beit Shammai said she does not need a second get from him. Beit Hillel, however, says she needs a second get from him when she was divorced from the Suin. They agree that if she was divorced from Erisin, she does not need a second get from him because his heart is not close to her. If a man married a woman on the basis of a bald get, she must leave both of them, and all these procedures apply to her. Okay.
Nedarim.
Okay, base hay.
Yeah.
If one vowed referring to Cherem, and he said, I vowed with reference to a fisherman's net, and he vowed referring to Korban, and he said, I vowed with reference to my gifts to kings, or if he declared, myself is to you like a Korban, and he said, I vowed with reference to a bone that I have set aside for myself to use for Nadarim, or Konam, with which my wife benefits from me, and he said, my declaration was directed at my first wife, whom I divorced. For all of these, they need not request cancellation, and if they requested cancellation, we penalize them and we are strict with them. These are the words of Rameir. The sages, however, say we find grounds to annul the neder from elsewhere, and we teach them so they do not conduct themselves with levity when dealing with the Nadarim. The sages permitted for Nadarim, bargaining Nadarim, hyperbolic Nadarim, unwitting Nadarim, and Nadarim on conditions unavoidably unfulfilled. What a bargaining Nadarim. One was selling an item and said, Kohanim, if I sell to you for less than a seller, and the other one says, Kohanim, if I pay you more than a shekel, both persons are willing at 3 dinars. But Eliezer ben Yaakov says, so too one who wants to direct a neder at another, so the other person should eat with him. He says, any neder that I will make in the future is void, and this is effective provided that he was never at the time of the neder. What are hyperbolic? A person said, Kohanim, unless I have seen this on the road like those departing from Egypt, or unless I have seen a snake like a bee on the olive press. What are unwilling Nadarim? A person said, if I ate or if I drank, and he remembers that he ate or drank, and it said, if I eat or if I drink, and he forgot and ate and drank, for a person said, Kohanim, my wife benefiting from me because she stole my purse, but she beat my son, and it was discovered she had not beaten him, and it was discovered she had not robbed him. A person saw people eating figs and he said, they are korban to you. And it turned out to be his father and his brothers. And they were with him. Beit Shammai says they are permitted, but those with them are forbidden. And Beit Hillel said, however, says both are permitted.
Okay. Next.
We have Erevin.
Oh.
Erevin test base.
Yeah.
If a large group is adjacent to a small one, the large one is permitted, but the small one is prohibited. If a large courtyard was breached into a small one, the large one is permitted, but the small one is prohibited, because it is like the entrance of a large one. If a courtyard was breached into a public domain, the one who brings from there into a private or from a private into it is liable. These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer. And where the sages say, from it into the public domain or from the public domain into it, it is not liable because it is like a Carmelis. If a courtyard was breached into a public domain on two of its sides, or if a house was breached on two of its sides, or an alley with cross beams with poles were removed, they are permitted on that Sabbath, but prohibited in the future. This is Rabbi Yehuda. But Yossi says if they are permitted on that Sabbath, they are permitted in the future. If they are permitted in the future, they are prohibited on the Sabbath. A secondary story built upon two houses or bridges under which a road passes, one may carry beneath them on Shabbos. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda, but the common prohibit. Rabbi Yehuda also said we may make an error for an open alley, but the common prohibited it.
Oh. All right, Nida.
Okay. Gimel Hey. If a woman hears about a tumtum or an androgen, she observes the periods of tuma and tahara for a male and female. If she aborted either a tumtum and a male or an androgen and a male, she observes the period of tuma or tahara for a male and female. However, if a woman aborted either a tumtum and a female or an androgen and a female, she needs only observe the periods of tuma for the tahara for a female child. If the fetus emerged dismembered or inverted when the majority of it emerges, it is considered born. If the fetus emerges in the usual manner, it is considered born when a majority of its head emerges, and what is considered most of its head when its forehead comes out. If a woman aborts something and it is not known what it is, she observes the periods of tuma and tahara for a male and a female. However, if it is not known whether it was a child or not, she must observe the tuma laws of a male and female and a nida.
Right, so the extra chumras over there, because for the nida you've got the tuma of the you've got the tuma for a week, and for a zachar you've got tuma for a week and tara for 40 days, and for a nekeva you've got 14 days tuma and 80 days tara. So you've got to take all the chumras of all these positions together.
A woman who miscarried on the 40th day need not be concerned for a child. If she miscarried on the 41st day, she must observe the tuma laws for a male, a female, and a nida, which is the same as what we had before.
Yeah.
Right? And Rabbi Ishmael says if she miscarried on the 41st day, she must observe the tuma laws for a male and a nida. If she miscarried on the 81st day, she must observe the tuma laws for a male, female, and nida. For a male embryo is completed on the 41st day, and a female embryo completed on the 81st day. But the common say concerning both the creation of a male embryo and the creation of a female embryo, this one and that one both require 41 days.
Right. Okay. And
can I help you? What are you doing? Get out of here. Okay, base Aleph. One who buys the fetus of a cow belonging to a non-Jew, or sells one to him, even though it is not permissible, or enters into a partnership with him, or receives a cow from him to hold, or gives one to him to hold, is exempt from the laws as it states in Israel, but not in others. Kohanim and Levites are liable. They are not exempted from the Bechor law of kosher animals. They were exempted only from the redemption of the son and from the law of the firstborn donkey. All consecrated animals whose permanent blemish preceded the consecration and which were redeemed are subject to the laws of Bechor and the gifts due to Kohen, and they revert to a mundane status even to the extent that they may be shorn and put to work. Their offspring and their milk are permissible, and their redemption after their redemption, and one who slaughters them outside the temple courtyard is not liable. They do not affect Tamara, and if they die prior to their redemption, they may be redeemed except for the Bechor and the Misa offering. All consecrated animals who consecration preceded their blemish, or whose temporary blemish preceded their consecration, and a permanent blemish developed in them afterward, and they were redeemed, are exempt from the laws of Bechor and the gifts due to Kohen. And they do not revert to mundane status to the extent that they may be shorn and put to work. Their offspring and their milk are prohibited after their redemption. One who slaughters them outside the temple is liable, and the effect Tamura, and if they die, they must be buried.
Okay, yeah. And that's it.
Great. What do you have any idea what it's going to be for you tomorrow?
Okay, just